Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Chronicles from the Crypt.
Hello there, I'm Casualty Chris.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Chronicles from the Crypt, a twice-a-month look at the horror anthology series, Tales from the Crypt.
Now, on each of these podcasts, we're going to be doing 2 episodes of the television series, the HBO television series Tales from the Crypt. And in between seasons, we do bonus episodes about some tangentially related Tales ephemera. But we're back into it, aren't we?
We are back into it. We took a little bit of a break. Our schedules were all over the place. The holidays kind of suck when it tries to get things done that aren't things of necessity that, as one might say, pay the bills. So there you go, unfortunately. Tales from the Crypt, as much fun as it is, it doesn't pay our bills. And as far as HBO is concerned, they don't even care about it anymore. So
no, they don't.
They sure don't, because they have yet to release a Blu-ray version of the show, which is a bummer. And, you know, let's just say you could go and watch all the episodes of the show on YouTube, and they've been there, and no one seems to care. So
Weirdly,
no one seems to care. But on this episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're going to be taking a look at Season 4, Episode 5 and 6. Those 2 episodes are Beauty Rest and What's Cooking, so let's get right into Beauty Rest.
7. Hello, kitties. What's new? I was just in the middle of my deadly dozen. First, I do a few pull-ups, then a few jumping hacks. And then I like to finish with a little die impact aerobics. Eight. I'm getting in shape for tonight's tale. It's about an ambitious young actress who's looking for her big break. Will she make it? Only her scare-dresser knows for sure. I call this dismal drama Beauty Rest.
So the episode aired July 11th, 1992. It is directed by Stephen Hopkins, written by Donald Longtooth, a.k.a.
Oh my goodness,
Terry Black once again. It stars Mimi Rogers.
Donald.
It stars Mimi Rogers, Jennifer Rubin, Kathy Ireland, and Buck Henry, and it focuses on Mimi Rogers' character of Helen, who is a model who keeps getting older and losing out on jobs to her younger, more quote-unquote attractive roommate, played by Kathy Ireland. This episode is really bad.
It's okay. I didn't hate it.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the episode with John Lovitz and Bruce Boxleitner. It's almost the exact same episode, actually.
It really, really is.
And
yeah,
that one
I
is
thought that
more
too while I was
entertaining.
watching it. That one's wildly entertaining because you have, at least in that one, I know it was telegraphed, but like it still was kind of a good twist. Here, it's clear from the moment she gets that piece of paper, this girl is it. Like, give it to her or something. I'm just like, okay, so she's just waiting to die, I guess.
Well, and that ends up being what the reality is, but, it's not that I have something against Mimi Rogers, but I always associate Mimi Rogers with some of the worst stuff in the X-Files.
Oh, right, yeah, I forgot she was in there for a while.
Because of how bad she is on that show, of no fault of her own. I think that once Mimi Rogers' character gets introduced is kind of when the mythology starts. That's when the mythology of the show starts doing kind of weird hoop jumping and conclusion drawing that does not particularly work, if that makes sense. And I know you've watched the show enough to know exactly what I'm talking about. But
pretty underwhelming by then, I guess.
Yeah, and so Mimi Rogers in this is kind of just playing... she's playing an annoying character on top of everything else. Like, she's a character who you know is going to get it. That's just... That it's coming. And, like, her character is such a piece of shit that, like, you honestly understand and you're kind of okay with her getting it. Because, like, what does it really matter? Because her character's so terrible to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of those twists where it's like appropriate and we're happy to see it happen. So unusual. I'm going to point out this, as most Tales from the Crypt episodes, was not based on Tales from the Crypt. This is actually a Vault of Horror number 35. And was written and drawn by the fantastic Jack Kamen. The original comic, I won't say it's exact. I mean, it does follow the basic structure. What got added for the television episode was this idea of her being a failed actress and her roommate getting everything. In this, it's just two roommates, and one comes home and goes, "Hey, I'm going to win a beauty contest tomorrow." And she's like, "I want to win a beauty contest. Let me drug you, and I'll go take this paper and be the winner of that beauty contest." But what's funny is it's even more upfront in the comic. She's like, "Yeah, it's a beauty contest for undertakers and and mortuaries," and so she goes anyway. I think the comic was actually a little bit better than the episode, but there's some stuff in the episode I like. I like always seeing Buck Henry. He was sort of a 70s mainstay for a while. I think at the time, like during the original run of Saturday Night Live, he hosted the show more than anybody. I think at least twice a season for years and years. I like his performance a lot in it. I like Jennifer Rubin in it. I think if anyone knows Jennifer Rubin, it's probably from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She plays the bad character.
Bad.
Yeah.
She's the best character in that movie. I mean,
she is, and I think she's the best character here too.
She's beautiful and bad.
I thought she does a good job. But I mean, I don't know. Your mileage on Mimi Rogers is, dependent on her, I guess. Like, there's something always kind of off-putting about her to me. Not necessarily just because of the X-Files. Like, she shows up in a movie, and if she's kind of a lesser character, I think it can be good. I think one of her earliest things was... she was in a movie called Gung Ho, a Ron Howard movie with Michael Keaton, where she played his girlfriend in that, and I thought she was really good in that. So she can be good. It's just like this isn't it. And like you said, it calls back to that John Astin Insane Asylum episode like so hard that it's like, what was even the point? Like, are they even watching what they're doing? Like, it's so standard. I mean, I like the final shot, the where they peel her open, but I don't know.
I mean, it's a great practical effect, but so what, right? Like, It's Tales from the Crypt. If anything, the practical effects have always been pretty good.
Right.
Like, shocking. A practical effect in Tales from the Crypt is good. Okay. Like, that's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a dickhead, but like, this show is pre-CGI, so everything was practical effects. So anytime they trot out a practical effect, I do appreciate it, but like you said, I mean, like, that's not enough.
Certainly not. And it's not enough of a twist, and it's not enough of a shock or a scare. I mean, there are no scares in it. It's basically just a thriller episode. This is not a supernatural episode at all. And we, like you said, we're just kind of waiting for this to happen. Like, we're just wasting our time, like, with this interloper character played by Jennifer Rubin, like, trying to steal the crown from her, and so she commits even more murder. Like, clearly the first one was a mistake, where she kills Kathy Ireland by mistake, and also, we're going to deal with this in the next episode specifically, but like, the writers on Tales from the Crypt, like, they're not funny.
Well, especially not Terry Black.
Oh, it's not Terry Black?
No, especially not Terry Black.
Oh, especially not Terry Black. Yeah, he thinks he's like this sort of irreverent writer there. Like, what's his name on the X? Darren Morgan on the X-Files. Like, right. He was the irreverent writer, but he could back it up. Like, his shit was actually funny. Here, like, the comedy is just stupid. Like, ball buster fucking perfume that she's auditioning for, the commercial at the beginning. Like, you've definitely got it. Nope, didn't get it. Like, okay, hilarious.
Man, wasn't that a funny scene?
My God, man.
It's real dumb.
Yeah. Before we started talking about it, I thought, like, man, it was a pretty good episode, and now I'm leaning hard into don't watch this one.
Well, and again, it's just the thing that's more disappointing for me than anything else is the fact that this is like the thing about Tales from the Crypt that I think we really have maybe not talked enough about is these seasons aren't very long. They're like 13 episodes, 14 episodes,
if that.
And this is one of the 13 episodes.
Right.
Like, what? Like, really? Like, this is one of the 13 episodes. You can't get this back. You can't get this back.
No, and what we have talked about is, like, the sort of wealth of material that was available to them. And more often than not, as I go back and sort of reread them in preparation to talk about the episodes here, is that they seem as if most of the stories came out of the same couple of issues. When we get to What's Cookin', that was Haunt to Fear 12, and that has at least 4 other stories that were also adapted. It's like they bought a limited number of issues, and then we're just like, pull them out of here. Like, I don't know, man. Like, we actually have discussed this before. Like, who's running the ship? Like, what person is not going, well, we've only got so many episodes. Let's not do the same thing that we did before. Because there can be interesting things to be done, and I think the next episode is a little bit closer to what that should have been.
Well, and I think, like you also mentioned, that is the problem, is that with like anything else, I mean, this is, you could talk about this with, as far as I'm concerned, any piece of, entertainment. Like, the person who's running it, ultimately, they have the final say. And I'm not sure that there was one cohesive voice on this show.
No, it just seemed like, they had their sort of stock writers. Occasionally they would get in someone, with a little more prestige and let them do what they wanted. But, it stopped going back to the Terry Blackwell. That's all I have to say about this. Like, why is he even using the pseudonym? That's a weird thing.
The pseudonym from an episode of the show.
Yeah. Like, what? Why? I mean, does he not like his script, so he wanted to take his name off it?
Because he's a clown.
Because he keeps doing it.
I don't know. Because he's a clown. That's my explanation.
Right, but, there has to be a...
there has to be an actual explanation.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to be running the big top, right? Who's letting the clown 100%. Do his capering.
So I would say this is a skip for me.
Yeah, I'm also going to say skip. There's something to be had for it. I don't think it's as hard a skip as some of the other ones that we've already seen this season, but I would not suggest somebody waste their time with this one.
No, I completely agree. So let's move on to the next episode. What's Cooking?
Next time I book a table for 8 o'clock, Wolfgang, I expect to be seated at 8 o'clock. A good wine. Not a great wine, but locally grown, that's for sure. A pleasant enough bouquet. Almost reminds me of a good scream sherry. I hope you brought your appetites, kiddies, because tonight's tasteless tidbit is something I'm sure you'll savor. It's a real Epigorean delight about a nice young couple who find the restaurant business a little hard to swallow. I call this adventure in fine dining What's Cookin'?
So What's Cookin' aired July 22nd, 1992. It stars Christopher Reeve, Bess Armstrong, Art LaFleur, Meatloaf, and everyone's favorite punk bastard, Judd Nelson.
Yeah.
Right? And it focuses on Christopher Reeve and Bess Armstrong as Fred and Irma, a married couple who owns a restaurant who aren't successful until a drifter helps them out with a very interesting recipe for food. If you've seen something like this before, you know where this is going. Nelson's character starts feeding people human meat.
Sweeney Todd for all time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, here's one. We always talk about this, deviating from the original source material. This one deviates wildly from the original source material. What's Cookin', as all episodes of Tales from the Crypt must be, is not from Tales from the Crypt. This is from Haunt of Fear 12. This was actually written by Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein, who ran the EC ship, and it was drawn by Jack Davis, who is a fucking phenomenal artist. In the original comic, it's two guys running a restaurant on an interstate, and they are completely failing. There's no gimmick to their place. A drifter shows up, says, "Hey, if I can turn your business around, can you give me half the profits?" And they're like, "Well, we half of nothing is nothing, so yeah, whatever you want to do." And the guy turns the business around by making barbecue chicken. He like cooks it outside, like he makes this big barbecue pit outside, and it immediately becomes a huge success. And the two guys who started the business initially become so jealous that they're giving this guy half the money that they burn him alive in his home. And then the drifter's corpse revivifies, if that's the word, comes back and kills them both in sort of cooking ways. I think he boils one in like boiling fat, and he hangs the other one up like for meat. So it was a supernatural episode. It doesn't have virtually anything to do with the one we have, other than there's people running a restaurant and a drifter who helps them turn their business around. So bravo to the writers on this one for saying, let's do something a little more interesting with it, even if it's not the most original thought in the world.
Which it's not, but that's okay.
Right. And, this one is more of a comedy episode where I think the sort of black humor works and the obvious jokes do not. At the start, they're like running a squid restaurant. They're trying to be like Colonel Sanders, but for squid. Not funny, just kind of gross. Like the neon sign outside the window says Fred and Irma's like Squid Shack or something, and most of the neon letters in Fred and Irma have blinked out, so it actually says enemas, haha.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, God almighty. Now, having said that, man, we got Christopher Reeve and Bess Armstrong, and even Judd Nelson's really good in this one. I enjoyed this one like a lot. Makes me hopeful for episodes of Tales from the Crypt when you get one like this. I don't know how you reacted to it necessarily.
I like this episode a lot. I mean, this episode is a lot of fun. This episode is over the top in a good way. I would say that I maybe dock it a little bit of points in my mind just because it is so predictable.
Yeah.
But I mean, predictability is not a bad thing necessarily, right?
No, not at all. So they start serving the meat. Nevertheless, just because they're sort of, turning this entire town into cannibals doesn't mean we necessarily know where it's going to go by the end. So, I liked it. I thought Judd Nelson was kind of weird and menacing, as he could be. This was like at the end of not his career necessarily. I mean, I know he's still working somehow, but like his popularity had waned. So it was good to see that he could still do sort of interesting work. And of course, you got Superman in it, man.
Well,
it was great.
That's the other thing. Like, Judd Nelson has had an interesting career, I would think, don't you? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, he's in one of the sort of more iconic teen movies of all time with The Breakfast Club. And he did some interesting sort of work with the quote-unquote Brat Pack. I think he's the best thing in Mario Van Peebles' movie New Jack City as the sort of loose cannon white cop in that film. Like, I thought he did some interesting work in there.
How do you feel about him in Steel?
In Steel? You're talking about the fucking the Shack movie?
Yeah, he's in that movie.
Is he the villain in that movie?
Yeah, he sure is.
Wow, it's been some time since I've visited that particular opus.
Magnum opus, a true magnum opus.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I'm sure he was good in it.
He is not.
He couldn't have been worse than Shaq.
But yeah, no. The thing about this episode is, I think there is so much good stuff going on in this episode that it offsets the fact that it is just a very predictable episode.
Yeah, it's fun, as fun as people feeding humans to other people can be. And, I think it's got a pretty good twist at the end, actually. When the cop has developed this taste for human flesh and wants them to continue. Like, I like that. Yeah, I don't know, even Bess Armstrong, this is a weird one in that, I don't expect any of these actors to be involved with it. So, it probably could be considered stunt casting, but it sure does work. Just the scene alone of Christopher Reeve slowly trying the piece of meat.
I think that's the best
pretty
scene
great.
In the entire episode.
Right? With Judd Nelson, just looming up behind his shoulder. It's so good. It's so weird.
Well, and that is the thing that I would say is the biggest success is, like you said, I would not have thought that Christopher Reeve would be involved in something like this.
Certainly not.
At all. That's not, when I think of Christopher, well, to be fair, when I think of Christopher Reeve, I unfortunately think about a gentleman in a wheelchair. So. Yeah,
that's an unfortunate legacy to it, but, look, man, every generation has their superhero, somebody who played that superhero, and
Henry Cavill, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, Christopher Reeve will always be Superman. It's like they grew him in a lab to play that part. He's just so perfect as it. And I think at the time that he took the role, all of his friends were like, "Don't do this. You're just going to be Superman forever. No one's going to cast you in anything else." And he was like, "I don't care. I'm doing it." And that's kind of what happened. He did some interesting work here and there in theater and. Somewhere in Time, he's really good in, and he did some comedy, but he kind of never recovered. So it's him and Judd Nelson were unfortunately in the same boat when this episode rolled around. But I'm gonna say kind of good that they were, because otherwise I don't think the episode would have been quite as successful. Because they're both really good in it, which is not to take away from Bess Armstrong or even Art LaFleur as the cop.
I think Art LaFleur is great.
Yeah, man, character actor extraordinaire.
I always just think of Art LaFleur as the Babe Ruth vision from The Sandlot.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, he kind of just looks like Babe Ruth, anyways.
Sure does. To me, there was a. Frank Darabont, who we're going to be talking about soon, he and Chuck Russell co-wrote a remake of The Blob in the late 80s. I want to say 1988. And Art LaFleur plays the pharmacist in the town who the lead character is dating his daughter. And he's really funny and kind of scary at the same time in it. So to me, that's what I think of when I think of Art LaFleur. So always good to see him as well.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's good in this. And the little twist at the end is fun. I don't know why Meatloaf is in it, but sure.
Because his name is Meatloaf.
Get it? And they're eating him just like they did in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, the obvious jokes are nothing that lands. They run a squid shop, and his name is Chumley. Get it? Chum? Okay, great.
Yeah. It's a little... But it's clearly supposed to be up in your neck of the woods. It's supposed to be up in Boston, because Christopher Reeve has a Red Sox hat on.
Yeah, clearly that's a New England fishing village that they're in, where nobody cares about fish.
Not Red Sox. Red Sox.
Red Sox. Oh yeah, the Red Sox. Kid.
So yeah, it's a fun episode. I know that a lot of people reference this as one of the top episodes of the show. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's up there with the best of them, but
I would say it might be just based on the people that are in it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, where else are you going to see Superman eating human flesh?
Yeah, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
So, and that in my mind is kind of that's the one thing that I think elevates this episode more than the others is the fact that it is, Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, man.
Never got to see otherwise doing stuff like this.
Yeah, no, I think this is the only sort of horror thing he did. He made he made the film Death Trap back in the day, but that's more of a thriller and less sort of straight ahead horror. So, welcome addition to the Tales from the Crypt family, Mr. Reeve.
And the Christopher Reeves, I think, in my mind, is his career is obviously a very big what if.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because unfortunately,
horse riding.
Unfortunately, horse riding, exactly. Fortunately,
What a drag.
1995 was a hell of a year for Christopher Reeve, and not in a good way.
No, so it's good to see him sort of in his prime here, like because he was a hell of an actor. Like it is unfortunate when people get sort of pigeonholed and nobody wants to let them sort of grow outside of that. And I think that's one of the best things about Tales from the Crypt in general was getting people and casting them in roles that they probably couldn't get. Like in a feature or a TV series or something. Like it's good that it's an episodic show that can allow people to sort of stretch and show what they can do. I think we've seen that a lot over the past 4 seasons. So that certainly worked here. Like I'm gonna go ahead and recommend this one. I really like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend it as well. I think it's a good, interesting episode. It's not the best episode of the show, but
but it's fun.
Yeah,
I dig it. And just Judd Nelson's weirdo performance alone, so he's so kind of matter-of-fact about it all. Like, and I like that it's a family recipe. Like, it's kind of hints at some darker history that we don't even know about. Like, how long has he been doing this?
How long has he been eating human meat?
Yeah, it is a little weird that they have this like walk-in freezer where the bodies are being stored, and Bess Armstrong is their cook, and she never goes back there. Like, how long are they going to be able to sustain that? And she wants to franchise the place.
Let me go get it for you. What?
No, stay here. I'll get it. You're cooking. Like, okay.
It's a little hokey.
Yeah, but minor quibble in is what is a very enjoyable entry into the Tales from the Crypt canon.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good episode for sure. So, on the next episode of Chronicles from the Crypt, we're going to be talking about The New Arrival and Showdown, episodes 7 and 8 of Season 4. Until then, where can people find you, Father Malone?
You can always find me on my YouTube channel, Ot5 Films, where you can see my show You've Never Seen. You can also hear me occasionally as a guest on the Culture Cast, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast. So no anthology series will go unexamined by me and you.
And you can find me at Twitter at Casualty_Chris. You can find the podcast online at chroniclesftc.com and also on Twitter at chroniclesftc. And I do a podcast of my own called The Culture Cast. And then we do a podcast called Dreams for Sale where we talk about Twilight Zone 1985. And then we also, I do a podcast with Mike White talking about the Kolchak tapes. But that podcast is becoming a Barney Miller podcast, so it doesn't really count anymore.
Naturally.
And I do a podcast about shows that only lasted 1 season called The One Season Show. Big thanks as always to John Kassir for the intro to the podcast, and we'll catch you on the next episode.